I'm Paul. I produce videos of volleyball matches that I publish on YouTube. My videos captures a spherical view of the action on both sides of the net on two adjacent courts. The spherical format allows the viewer to change the apparent camera angle by zooming in and out, panning left and right, and pitching up and down when using suitable software. The camera is placed above the net so that the play is not obstructed by equipment, passers-by, officials, and so on. This demonstration uses the VLC application to render the video on a computer, but a modern browser or the YouTube app also work on desktop and handheld devices. Stay with me while I show you how I record and edit these videos and extract a single frame from the final video to use as a thumbnail photo for YouTube. The model of camera I use to record the event is an Insta360 ONE X2. I mount the camera on a selfie stick that I attach to the net pole between the volleyball courts. The camera has a USB-C connector and uses USB 3.0 for data and power transfer. The camera's battery life is not sufficient to capture the full evening of volleyball, so I supplement it with a power bank. The charging circuits of the camera and power bank disconnect automatically when the camera battery is fully charged. To prevent the camera battery from draining, I must occasionally press a button on this power bank to wake everything up and keep the electricity flowing. I strap the power bank to the pole first using a safety to prevent dropping it. I connect the camera to the power bank and begin recording, then I secure the selfie stick to the pole. I place the selfie stick so that the camera is well above the top of the net. These straps are smooth on one side and have hooks and loops on the other, so that I can thread them through a ring and cinch them down tightly. The teardown at the end of the evening is the reverse of the setup. The setup and teardown take me about 10 minutes each. The camera records video on a micro SD card. Although I can offload the data and recharge the battery via USB, I prefer to swap out the micro SD card and battery for fresh ones instead. I recharge the old battery on an offline charger. The camera is ready for the next event after just a few seconds, but I double check the battery and storage levels before packing it up. I give all of my camera micro SD cards unique names so that I can identify them when I mount them as devices on my computer. The Insta360 ONE X2 camera that I use records video in half-hour segments, with a gap of several seconds between them. Each segment is recorded in 3 files in a proprietary format. I copy the full contents of the card to a new folder on a large hard drive. I name the folder with a date stamp in year, month, day format for convenience. The elapsed time to make the copy is about half an hour, which I will speed through here. After the copy completes, the micro SD card becomes my backup of last resort for the original data. I use the free proprietary app supplied by Insta360 to convert the pristine video from the camera to the MP4 format that I can edit. I import all of the files having an LRV naming convention. The app relates the remaining files automatically. I immediately export all of the video files in bulk, leaving the default 360-degree format, resolution, and frame rate, and I select the app's direction lock feature. Then I confirm that the converted MP4 files will be stored in the same folder on my hard drive and initiate the export. The rate of conversion on my system is about 90 minutes per 2 hours of video, which I will speed through here. The Insta360 application sleeps if the screensaver activates, so I disable the screensaver until the conversion finishes. When the conversion finishes, I quit out of the Insta360 app. I copy the newly created MP4 files to a new folder on a solid-state drive to improve performance of the video editor, keeping the original files as backups. The new folder is named with a date stamp using the year, month, day format. Copying these files completes in about 10 minutes, which I will speed through here. Now I start Final Cut Pro. I create a new library that I store in the same folder as the copied MP4 files. I give the new library the same name as its parent folder. I have another pre-existing library that contains sample videos that I copy into the timelines of new projects. The sample videos contain sample titles that I edit for each new video. For the moment, I simply open the sample library for convenience. I create a new project and name it with a timestamp, but this time I use a more conventional, human-readable format. I verify that the new project, which will eventually be the finished video, is in the 360-degree format and matches the resolution and frame rate of the converted MP4 files. The remaining settings optimize the operation of Final Cut Pro in my environment. In the sample library, one of the sample videos contains titles that I copy to the new video. I also copy a video clip of a 20-minute countdown timer into the new project's inventory of clips. In the new project, I edit the titles based on the schedules and score sheets from the recorded volleyball matches, and I compute the win-loss records for each team that night. There are 2 sets of titles, one for each court. One set of titles is shown in the video's primary viewing angle, the other set is shown in the reverse angle. Editing the titles takes about 20 minutes, which I will speed through here. Here I show how I edit the last titles in the video. I copy this information from the score sheets of each of the recorded matches. These titles are duplicated so they are shown in both the video's primary viewing angle and also in the reverse angle. The sample also includes some titles to warn the viewer if portions of the volleyball action are missing. These are located at both the beginning and end of the video, but they are not needed here, so I remove them. I make the available transitions visible in the editor so that I can use them while I import and assemble the converted MP4 files containing the recorded volleyball matches. Now I import the converted MP4 files into the clip inventory of the new library. The settings optimize the operation of Final Cut Pro. The MP4 files are contained within the same parent folder as the Final Cut Pro library for this video. To save time and storage space, I leave them in place. That is, I don't physically copy them into the library. I copy each of the imported clips into the timeline in chronological order and separate them with cross dissolves. This takes a couple of minutes, so I will speed through it here. When all of the clips are collected, I return to the beginning of the first clip. Then I make several passes through the entire video to stabilize the primary point of view, locate and mark the start and end of each game, place titles, cut out sections where no game is in progress, and place countdown timers. One of the limitations of this setup is that the camera is never aligned to the desired angle with respect to the gym at the beginning of each clip. The camera also rotates whenever a ball contacts the net. These are movements that the viewer can see. Consequently, the primary angle of the video must be realigned often throughout the course of the video. To begin stabilizing the camera's point of view, I set the primary viewing angle of the video so that it points along the net towards the nearest wall. I turn on the horizon lines and scan for the beginning of the first game. When I have found the beginning of the first game, I reorient the viewing angle for the entire clip. I place the horizon's crosshairs on some prominent feature, and then make sure that the horizontal line is level. I normally use the antenna at the far side of the court for the vertical center line, and the top of the wall clock and exit signs above the doors for the horizon. But for this project, I chose to use the upper left corner of the clock for both the vertical center line and the horizon. Now I'll scan forward to the next place where the camera's primary viewing angle changes. In this project, that happens when the second clip begins. I will speed forward to that. At the beginning of the second clip, I reorient the entire clip as I did with the first clip. This time, I used the antenna as the reference for the vertical center line rather than the clock. Then I found that the camera was coincidentally shaken after a short time. To correct the shaking, I set a keyframe just before where the point of view changes, and then scan forward to where the movement ends and reorient the clip there. Often the camera's movements are not smooth, so several adjustments may be needed. Then I scan forward to find the next change to the camera's point of view and repeat. To save time, I don't always correct small movements that are visible in the editor but are probably not noticeable by a person viewing the final video. But if I reach the end of a clip and find that the viewing angle has changed slightly, I will add a keyframe a couple of minutes earlier. Then I reorient the clip to gradually correct the angle to make it match the beginning of the next clip. Stabilizing the camera's point of view in this way for the entire video takes about 30 minutes, so I'll speed through it here. When I reach the end of the last game, I move back to the beginning of the video to begin the next pass. Now all of the pieces of the video have been collected and aligned. I locate the start and finish of each game and place markers there. I use chapter markers to identify the start of each game and regular markers to identify the end. The different markers help me later to determine which titles go where. They also help to determine where I can cut away segments between games. I make 2 passes, 1 for each court, and I use 2 viewers. To begin, I hide Final Cut Pro's features that I do not use for these passes. Specifically, they are the sidebar, the browser, the inspector, and the transitions browser. In the first pass, I scan the first court using the 360-degree viewer in the upper right, which shows the video's primary viewing angle. It takes a while to locate the first serve of the match, so I will speed up to that here. I set a chapter marker for the beginning of each game. Later, I place a title just before the first serve. Titles have a 10-second duration, so I place the chapter marker 10 seconds ahead of the moment of the contact of the serve. After placing the chapter marker, I scan for the end of the game. This takes a while, so I will speed through that here. When I locate the end of the game, I place a standard marker. I repeat creating markers for each game on this court. I will speed through that until the end of the last game on this court. Here I mark the end of the last game on the first court. After marking the last game on the first court, I rewind back to the beginning of the video to begin marking games on the second court. I change my focus to the second viewer in the upper left corner. I spin the viewer 180 degrees and resize it so that I can see the entire second court. Scanning for the first serve takes a while, so I will speed through that here. Having found the first serve on the second court, I repeat what I did for the first court, to locate and mark the beginning and ending of each game on the second court. This pass takes a while, so I will speed through that now. After spending about an hour marking the games on both courts, I rewind back to the beginning of the video and prepare to place titles. When I first created the project for the new video, I copied all of the titles from a sample project to the beginning of the new project. Then I edited them according to the night schedule and the final scores of each game. With the beginning and ending of each game marked, it's easy to position those titles correctly. But I start by moving the match summary titles to the end of the video. I cut them from the beginning of the video and paste them at the end. Then I move them to their final positions, trim the gap at the very end, and add a crossfade. Now I go back to the beginning of the video and search for the first chapter marker. This marker was placed erroneously. Normally I move the marker, but this time I cut it. The paste feature in Final Cut Pro by default pastes the title so that it begins at the playhead, so I'm careful to leave the playhead in the proper location. I cut and paste the title that matches the first serve of the evening. I search for the second chapter marker. Leaving the playhead in place, I go back to the beginning of the video and cut and paste the title before the start of the first game on the second court. I repeat this procedure to place the proper titles at the start and end of each game. Using this method, it takes about 15 minutes to place all of the titles for the games. I will speed through that now. With the titles placed, I return to the beginning of the video to trim away segments where both courts are idle. I move the remaining introductory titles to their final locations. Now I remove the unwanted warm-up time between the introductory titles and the first serve of the night. To keep viewers from getting lost when only one game is in progress, I lengthen the title for the next game on the idle court. Later, I will add countdown timers to the elongated game titles. Then I search for a segment after 2 standard markers and before 2 chapter markers, that is, a time when both courts are idle. I cut out that section of video, replacing it with a crossfade. I lengthen the titles for the following games so that there is always a title showing while the court is idle. I continue to locate and trim idle sections and lengthen titles as needed. This takes about 6 minutes, which I will speed through now. After the video has been trimmed, I add audio fades at the end and the beginning of the video. I add an audio fade out to the last clip and lengthen it to 3 seconds. I go back to the beginning of the video and add an audio fade into the first clip and lengthen it to 3 seconds. Here, I test the audio fades. In this pass in the edit of this video, I add countdown timers to the long titles shown on the idle courts. For this effect, I created a video that counts down the minutes and seconds from 20 minutes to 0. I replicate, composite, reorient, and trim the clock video as needed to match each idle period on each court. Using a 20-minute timer that starts within the first few seconds of a new video is awkward. I move the clock video to an arbitrary place, shorten it to fit, position it, and trim it to its final length. I shortened the clock video too much in this first attempt, so I hit the undo button a few times and tried again. Here I set the composite setting to add and reorient the clock on the second court. Reorienting is strange because the mouse controls are in the 360-degree viewer, not with the displayed artifact in the second viewer. In this case, I manipulate the clock while it is displayed 180 degrees away from the mouse. After the title and countdown timer have been positioned, I trim them to length. I edit the timer to disappear with 3 seconds remaining to reduce clutter, and I add a crossfade to it. Then I check the appearance of the timer and its fades. I repeat this to add a countdown timer to every long title before each game. This process takes about 40 minutes, so I'll speed through it now. I extend the final score title on the early court to the end of the video. At this point, the video is complete and it's ready to be exported. But before I do that, I capture a thumbnail image from a frame of the video. I select a frame in my videos to use as thumbnail images on YouTube. Final Cut Pro won't allow this type of capture with 360-degree videos, but it can export frames as JPEG images from traditional videos. So I create a short clip containing the frame I want to use, create a traditional 4K video out of it, and export the frame from that. While I edit, I usually get some ideas of which frames might be candidates as thumbnails. I often mark them with to-do markers, but not always. I use to-do markers to distinguish them from the start and end of games. Here, I've chosen the frame I want to use as the thumbnail for this video. I move the playhead slightly and use the blade to bound the frame and create a compound clip from it. I create a new project for a traditional 4K video and add the thumbnail clip to it. I select the frame and reorient it as desired. I export the frame as a JPEG image and store it in the same folder as the Final Cut Pro library. I export the completed video to a file that I can upload to YouTube and save it in the same folder as the Final Cut Pro library. The final video is usually about 50 gigabytes in size, so this step takes over 3 hours to complete on my computer. Final Cut Pro sleeps when the screensaver starts, so I disable the screensaver and let the export run overnight. After the video has been exported from Final Cut Pro, I compose a text file to upload to YouTube for its description page for the video. In the file, I give the name of the league, the date, and the schedule for the teams featured in the video. I scan the video once more to get the timestamps for each chapter marker. I use the timestamps to create chapters in the YouTube description for each game so that viewers can navigate to specific games. I usually take about 20 minutes to write this file. To publish on YouTube, I upload the video and thumbnail image to my channel in YouTube Studio. I copy and paste the contents of the text file to the long description in YouTube's upload page. Other content creators have documented the upload procedure in detail, so I won't go into it here. Once started, the 50 gigabyte video can take a while to upload. For me, the extremes are between about 40 minutes and about 5 hours. Sometimes the upload fails or hangs, and it must be resumed or repeated. YouTube also does processing to the uploaded video before it becomes viewable, and that can take up to several hours to complete. Finally, I erase the camera's files from the micro SD card and store it in its protective adapter with the camera. The time I spend in Final Cut Pro is about 3.5 hours. Intermittent time I spend at the keyboard initiating file transfers and other automatic procedures adds up to about half an hour. Unattended file transfers and conversions account for about 5.5 hours. Accordingly, the total elapsed time to take the video from camera to YouTube is about 10 hours, best case. I've just shown you how I produce my volleyball videos. Above my head, I've linked to the actual YouTube video that I produced here. In the lower right, I've linked to another documentary about how I produce highlights. In the upper right, I've linked to my YouTube channel where you will find all of my volleyball videos, documentaries, and other content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this to be a helpful resource for your own video productions.